In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the crankcase cover gasket on a Ryobi trimmer. The crankcase cover gasket creates a seal between the crankcase and the crankcase cover. If you have oil leaking in this area, this gasket should solve the problem. Also, anytime you remove the crankcase cover, you should replace the gasket as well. Replacing the gasket is easy to do, and I'm going to show you how. Crankcase cover gaskets, as well as many other parts, can be found on our website. Let's get started. I'll begin by removing the rear cover. Now remove the two screws that secure the carburetor to the engine. Before removing any of the fuel lines from the carburetor or the lines from the tank, you'll want to make sure that you drain any gas that might still be in the fuel tank. Now I can pull the carburetor away, disconnect the throttle cable, and remove the fuel lines. Now remove the carburetor mounting plate. It's held in place with 4 screws. I'll also need to thread the throttle cable through the opening in the mounting plate. As I take this assembly apart, the fuel lines and fuel tank will also come with it. Now remove the crankcase gasket. A razor blade can help with this, and I'll use the razor blade to carefully scrape away any excess material. The gasket kit includes both a gasket or an O-ring that can be used to seal the crankcase cover. Use whichever style was used to seal the cover on your trimmer. Now install the crankcase gasket. Now install the crankcase cover. As I reinstall the fuel tank, I'll want to make sure that the rubber bumper is in place that isolates the tank. There's also a bumper that goes on the crankcase cover. Make sure the gasket's in place and slide the cover onto the crankcase. And now I'll secure it with the screws. Now install the carburetor gasket. Now reinstall the throttle cable back onto the carburetor's throttle linkage. Now install the incoming fuel line to the bottom of the carburetor. And the line leading to the primer bulb on the top. And I'll secure the carburetor as well as the choke plate with the screws. As I tighten the upper screw, I want to make sure I have the choke plate lined up, as well as the wavy washer, so it doesn't get pinched by the screw. And now I'll reinstall the rear cover with the air filter.